Okay.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay. I'm gonna have to go through that again. I'm not gonna do that. All right. So this evening we have Melissa Velez and Ed Chen, and they're from the Consumer Protection Bureau. That's a city agency that's geared to workers, and they're going to talk to us about how to protect yourself in a freelance culture. So thank you so much, and off to you two.
I just want to say thank you, Michael, and thank you, Gina, for having us. We want to thank the New York Artist Equity Association for having us here. And so my name is Michelle Veliz, and I'm here with my colleague, Ed, who will be just talking about an important worker protection that is called the Freelancers Isn't Act. This is an act that went into effect in 2017. So I'm going to share a quick PowerPoint. Would it be possible to get the sharing screen?
Yeah, I'm going to give you co-host.
Right. Perfect.
That will give you, you can use screen share.
All right, awesome. All right, so everybody could see this. So this is just an old PowerPoint, but it's definitely does give a very good rundown of who we are and what our agency does, along with a more in-depth presentation on what the Freelancers Isn't Act. So I'm gonna fast forward. So in 2015, our agency has a small unit called Office of Policy and Standards that's basically serves as the city's like resource hub for workers. So if you're a worker and you have any questions regarding what the city's laws are and what rights you have, you could definitely reach out to our agency. And then this office went into effect in 2015. And basically, like I said earlier, they're in charge, this office is in charge with helping vulnerable workers and help embrace mandates on issues affecting immigrants, people of color, and women in the workplace, and also working with a variety of key workers and introducing the new legislation. Recently, our agency introduced new worker protections for delivery workers. However, that's a whole different tangent, but I'm just saying that as time goes by, our agency usually will get new worker protections and will enforce them into practice. So what our agency does is that they do enforcement regarding businesses. If there's a there's a business that has a specific license, then our city will make sure that, our agency will make sure that the business is operating. Right, definitely. We do outreach and education. We have a paid care division for workers who are like house cleaners, who are nannies or child caretakers, definitely that do education on the rights that they have. We also have a complaint intake and referral process. So we have our Office of Policy and Standards. A way you would get in contact with them is by submitting a complaint form, which you'll be able to complete by either calling 311, sending an email to olps@dcwp.nyc.gov. If you have a specific work complaint, you could also just email them and you have a specific question regarding on what protections there you have, or regarding or you have a concern regarding any city workplace law, like our paid and sick leave law, Freelancers Isn't Act, a fair work week law. All of these laws cover different workers, but this one is going to be mainly focused on if you're a freelancer. So our office also does research, advocacy, policy, and development. So this means that they run a few studies just to make, just to understand like what are the main concerns workers have, and like what best practices our agency could do to make sure there are solutions to specific concerns. And our Office of our Policy and Standards team consists of robust staff of attorneys, investigators, outreach and education specialists, as well as research and policy analysts, interpol necessary and data-driven. They also have strong collaboration with workers, unions, and worker organizations. Our agency has a good partnership with the Freelancers Isn't with the Freelancers Union, who is also a partner of ours, and we also do these sorts of presentations as well. And like I stated earlier, here are just some key workplace laws that our agency definitely enforces, with the first being paid safe and sick leave law. So this usually applies to folks who work over 80 hours a calendar year. You know, if they work in a restaurant or in a, or they're a home healthcare aide, you know, or domestic worker, then this law mainly is applicable to them. This means that they're allowed to have 56 hours or a little bit more, depending on the amount of employees that are in the business that they work at. And the Freelancers Isn't Act, we'll go more into detail about it right now. We also enforce the commuter benefits law, which is a law that isn't really strictly enforced, just because most organizations that offer these commuter benefits means that folks who work there are allowed to have like a commuter benefit program, but they would either get a certain Metro card that will allow them to save a couple of bucks throughout the time that they use it. We also have the Grocery Worker Retention Act, the Living and Prevailing Wage Law, and also the Fair Work Week Law, which mainly includes for scheduling for fast food workers and like 2 weeks advance notice of a work schedule. So the Freelancer Isn't Free Act, which is the first of its kind in the nation, went into effect in May 15, 2017. And before the Freelance Isn't Free Act, about 71% of freelance workers had trouble collecting payment during their careers, while only 20% of freelance workers operated under written contracts, and 5,968 is the average annual unpaid income for freelance workers. And this came from the source of the 2015 Freelancers Union report. So definitely we understand that we're in a pandemic, right? And sometimes folks, had side hustles on the side, and sometimes, they wouldn't get paid for their work. So this is why it's important to know that under the Freelancers Free Act, folks are covered specifically when it comes to receiving no payments for their work. So I just wanted to make a distinction. So this refers to worker classification. So sometimes workers are seen as independent contractors, right, versus like a typical employee. Usually these two types of workers have different rights, and most workers are employees, but also an employer could inaccurately treat a worker as an independent contractor, and that would be called a misclassification. So definitely something to make sure. And also, depending on the type of worker you are, whether you're a regular employee, you would usually receive W-2s. And if you're if you're an independent contractor, you would receive a different form. So definitely, if you're not really sure, you could always speak to your employer to find out what you're classified as. And also, an important question is that, is the person truly working for themselves, or are they economically dependent on their employer? So our agency has also published FAQs. So if you're someone who's not really sure, I could share that link in the chat box for more information for you to truly understand what you're defined as well. So before the Freelancer Isn't Free Act, written contracts are not required. For non-payments, freelancers filed breach of contract claim, and a few had any protections from retaliation, and freelancers usually pay their own attorney fees. Also want to clarify, not clarify, but make a note, retaliation is illegal. And also any threats that, your worker, or whether, the person giving you a gift definitely did that, you could always file a complaint with our office, either by calling 311 or emailing olps.nyc.gov. So before the law, typical employee rights would look like minimum wage, overtime, state and federal anti-harassment and anti-discrimination, the right to unionize, collective bargaining, health insurance, other laws. And then when it came to independent contractor, the rights would just include, would be based on the contract. And the contractor obligations would either include 100% of FICA taxes, work-related expenses, if purchased liability insurance. And you have rights regardless of your immigration status, which include a written contract, timely payment, freedom from retaliation, right to file a complaint, the right to sue for double damages and attorney fees, and the right to court navigation services. And then after that law went into effect, there have been new rights added to independent contractors, which you see here are highlighted in purple, right? Like I stated earlier, it includes written contract, timely payment, freedom from retaliation, right to sue, right to file a complaint. So definitely more recognition for freelance workers and for them to, make sure that they're being paid for their work. So who is a freelancer? A freelancer is any individual hired or retained as independent contractor by hiring party to provide services for compensation. Individuals may qualify as freelance workers under the law, even if they are incorporated or use a trade name. And freelancers are covered by the law regardless of their immigration status. There might be certain exceptions, like certain sales representatives, attorneys, licensed medical professionals, and workers hired that are retained by a government agency. So who is a hiring party? A hiring party is any person, organization, or entity other than a local, state, federal, or foreign government that retains a freelancer to provide any service for compensation. Here are just some scenarios. I will not go through them, but they basically would just identify who is a freelancer and who isn't. So the rights are written contracts. All contracts worth $800 or more must be in writing. This includes all agreements between you and the hiring party that total up to $800 in any 120-day period. And this applies to contracts entered on or after May 15, 2017, which is the date the law went into effect. And contracts include name and mailing address of worker and hiring party, itemization of all services, value of services provided, rate and method of compensation, pay date, or mechanism to determine pay date, right to a timely payment, and this means the hiring party must pay you for all completed work. You must receive payment on or before the date that is in the contract. If the contract does not include a payment date, the hiring party must pay you within 30 days of completing the work. And once you begin the work, the hiring party may not require you to accept less than the agreed upon amount. So these are some specific scenarios, like what are contract and non-payment violations. So in the scenario, a fashion designer hires a freelancer journalist to write an article of 2017, and then the work is finished in June, but the magazine never pays the journalist. So a couple hires a video photographer for their wedding, and the video photographer says contract, but the couple does not sign one and no payment is agreed upon. The couple pays the videographer in 60 days after the video is finished. So definitely these are just some examples that are considered non-payment violations. So always make sure if you're a freelancer, before you sign up any work, that you have a contract that includes, what type of services will be offered by you and the date that you should receive the payment, right? Whatever requests you have with the hiring party, just for you to have it in writing. And also freedom from retaliation. It is illegal for a hiring party to penalize, threaten, or blacklist you because you have exercised their rights. So definitely preventing the worker from procuring work by telling other employers to not hire them. That is also seen as a form of retaliation. Sending the worker a letter threatening unwarranted legal action is also a form of a threat. Also delaying or reducing the payment or refusing to pay is also seen as retaliation. So in these scenarios, it'll give you an example of what is a violation of a worker's freedom for retaliation. Some specific examples include like a screenwriter sues a hiring party for a violation of the NYC Freelancer Isn't free law. The day after the hiring party receives a copy of the lawsuit, the hiring party angrily calls the screenwriter and tells her that he would never work with her again because she filed the lawsuit against him. A model hires the hiring party for a written contract, but is told the next conversation that the hiring party has decided to go to another direction. An interpreter's payment is late one day and he requests payment from the hiring party. The hiring party pays the worker a day late and tells him that normally he would not work with someone again if they asked if the payment the day after the due date, but he will let it slide this time if the hiring party leaves a negative review on the interpreter's website but contacts him the following for another job. These are seen as other examples. And how to access your rights. So how you could access your rights is that you communicate directly with the hiring party. You request payment for a violation of freelance isn't free law. You negotiate a settlement. You file a complaint with our Office of Labor Policy and Standards, or you could go to court as well. And you have the right to file a complaint. You can file a complaint with DC Office of Labor Policy and Standards. You must file a complaint though within 2 years of the date of the violation. So important notice. So whenever the violation occurred, you have 2 years of when that from that violation to file a complaint. So definitely make sure of that. And this is what our complaint process looks like. So a freelancer would file a complaint with our agency. Like I said, it would be either by calling 311 or sending an email. They could also mail the complaint form, but we best advise to do a form online or to send an email. And what that complaint process would look like is that our agency would send the complaint to the hiring party within 20 days. And then the hiring party has to respond to the complaint within 20 days. And then our agency sends a response to the freelance workers also within 20 days. And beyond that, mediation will occur. And then our agency will send a survey to the freelance workers within 6 months. And if the hiring party does not respond, then the freelancer would receive a presumption in their favor in court. We also have court navigation services that help between the process. When our agency responds back to the freelance worker and when a solution is being worked out. So freelancers also have the right to sue. So freelance workers can sue the hiring party in court to seek damages. Freelance workers must file a claim in court for no written contract within 2 years of the date of violation. Freelance workers must file a claim in court for non-payment, underpayment, or act of retaliation within 6 years of the date of violation. And 6 years is the New York State statute of limitations under contract law. Our court navigation system includes services where non-attorneys are specifically trained to help freelancers, such as access to the court system, access to court forms and templates, access to interpretation and translation resources, and access to resources about word classification, and also could help them find an attorney. We also have a court navigation guide for freelance workers at nyc.gov/DCA or DCWP, which is our short acronym. So these are some examples of violation and damages. So there's a failure to enter a written contract. If the hiring party has failed to enter a written contract and violate any other provision of the law, or if they refuse to enter into a written contract but did not violate the law in any other way, then a judge may order the hiring party to pay the freelance worker damages equal to the value of the contract, pay the freelance worker $250. If it's a situation such as non-payment or underpayment, then the judge may order the hiring party to pay the freelancer worker double damages, injunctive relief, and other appropriate remedies. It includes retaliation. then the judge may order the hiring party to pay the freelance worker damages equal to the value of the contract for each retaliation violation. And attorney fees and costs are available for all successful claims. So there's also some patterns of abuse. If the hiring party has a pattern or practice of violating the Freelancer Isn't Free Act, then the city of New York may sue the hiring party, and NYC may pursue any appropriate relief until penalties up to $25,000. And when a hiring party demonstrates such a pattern, then the city law department may file civil suit against the hiring party. Freelance workers may still file a complaint and a civil suit for the same violations. So in this scenario, it states how can freelance workers access their rights. And here are just some specific scenarios. A wedding planner finishes work for a client, but the hiring party does not pay the worker on time. Then the worker requests payment and the hiring party sues him for breach of contract. A construction worker contracts individually with a hiring party. The worker discovers that other workers have been similarly hired by the same hiring party to do the same work, and the hiring party does not pay the workers the amount promised. So in these specific scenarios, the wedding planner or the construction worker could always contact our office, right, to speak with a representative from our agency to let them know what their rights are and how they could best navigate the situation. Some situations are different, right? So the source of action for each could also be different. However, just as a freelance worker, you do have rights and you are covered under Freelancer Isn't Free law. And lastly, we were formerly known as the Department of Consumer Affairs, but we're also known as the Department of Consumer Protection, which is our new name. And our Office of Labor Policy and Standards is a resource hub for workers. So if regardless of you being a freelance worker, you could also be another worker as well. You could always feel free to call 311 or 212 New York outside of New York City. If you're specifically freelancer and want to know about your rights, you could just say freelancer while calling 311. You could also send an email to freelancer@dca.nyc.gov. You could visit 42 Broadway at the 9th floor in Lower Manhattan, or visit nyc.gov/DCA. However, right now, in-person services are still closed just due to the going on pandemic, but definitely it would be best to send an email or call if you have any questions or concerns. I also just wanted to highlight what our freelancer page looks like online. So if you go on our website, which is nyc.gov, you will see that we have different tabs regarding the type of audiences that we work with, such as being consumers, workers, and businesses. And here you will basically see what the Freelancer Isn't Free Act consists of, what your rights are, the email address, you can send an email. Even if you have questions about your classification, you could always reach out to our agency and somebody will get back to you. We also offer additional resources as well, such as a navigation program to provide assistance and information when you file complaints with our agency. We also have brochures as well in different languages. And we also have a model contract, which I want to briefly show. Sorry, just waiting for it to load. So in this model contract, it basically just give a quick sample template on what the agreement should look like. It definitely includes, contact information of the hiring party and of the freelance worker. It includes the scope of the work, services that will be provided by the freelancer, the rate or amount of payment, the exact payment that we paid, the method of payment, the date and timing of the payment, which is also super important. It also has additional categories, like if there will be a penalty, if there's a late payment, or what the determined what the payment terms are, what the duration, modification, or termination of the agreement is, the choice of law and limitations on liability, ownership, and it also talks about more information as well. But this is typical what a contract should look like between the freelancer and the hiring party, just for them to be on an equal agreement on what the type of services that will be offered and what the payment will be as well. We also have it available in different languages as well. And also have more tabs where one could just download a copy of the law and the rules. And also as a freelance worker, you might, as you're signing up for gigs or, getting, or being hired by multiple hiring parties, it is tax season. So I also just wanted to highlight another additional resource that you might find beneficial. So our agency offers a free tax preparation services if you make under $72,000. So here I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that and just what it looks like. So our NYAE free tax prep campaign just recently began. There have been changes to tax credits, which means more money for you when you file. If you're not just a freelancer, but a general worker who has earned $72,000 or less in 2021, you could file for free with the IRS certified VITA TCE volunteer preparer. Here it talks about the different type of services that are offered, either in person. We have in-person preparation and also drop-off services. So in person, you would just meet one-on-one with the IRS certified VITA TCE volunteer preparer, who will sit down with you to complete an accurate tax return. Sessions usually take a minimum of 30 minutes. Our drop-off services is where you bring all your documents and you pick up the completed return later. Here we have a map of available sites throughout the city. So if you're curious where you can go, these are the free tax prep providers that are available throughout the 5 boroughs. There's quite a lot, as you could see. Here you could enter how far you're willing to travel, from any address. You could see their schedule, the services provided. Some providers do offer specialized assistance, which either could be, obtaining an ITIN number, right? If you missed your taxes last year, there are some sites that could help you do both. So definitely, I best advise to click on the map. I'm going to click on University Settlement, for example, and you click on the little plus sign here, and then it lets you know their contact number, what their schedule looks like, what the income limit is, the services that they offer. Like here, the specialized assistance, it would be amended returns, prior year returns, self-employed, Schedule C assistance, other languages they offer. Since the pandemic is still going on, definitely health and safety is a priority. So definitely, wearing a mask and maintaining 6 feet apart, that would be enforced over there. We also offer virtual tax prep and assist yourself prep. So if you're someone who just feels more comfortable doing it online, you can do so. You can also you can access that service either through a computer, tablet, or smartphone. Must have stable internet connection. Here you would just meet with the tax preparer online through either a video streaming platform. That's your chance for you to address any questions that you might have. And if you have any tax questions, that would be the best opportunity for you to ask any of those questions. And assist yourself prep, it's a little bit different than the virtual tax prep option. And this just allows filers to complete their tax return online on their own. And then IRS certified VITA TCE volunteer preparer would be available by phone or email to answer questions. Filers will need access to computer, tablet, or smartphone, or must have stable internet, etc., things like that. And here are a list of providers that are offer both services or one, and the best way you can make an appointment would be by visiting their website or sending them an email. Some of them also, you could just call them directly to make an appointment as well. And also just want to talk a little bit more about specific tax credits as well. So three important tax credits would be, the child tax credit, which would be mainly for parents and caregivers with children who are younger than 18. They could get up to $3,000 or $3,600 per child, depending on the child's age. Filers do not need to have had income to claim the credit. So definitely, if you didn't work last year, right, but you had a child, then this credit could definitely be useful to you, specifically since you could get up to $3,600 per child. It all depends on the children's age. So families who got advance payments in 2021 must file in 2022 to get the rest of their money. And this includes families that signed up online using the IRS non-filer portal or getctc.org, and only children being claimed need to have the social security numbers, and then the filer does not need to have a social security number and can file using an individual taxpayer identification number. And with an earned income tax credit, the ETIC, that is available to working families and individuals with low and moderate incomes. And non-filers who are as 19 and older with or without children can claim up to $6,728, depending on the number of qualifying children. So child and dependent care credit. This is for working families who pay for childcare for children under 13 or the care of independent adults, can get it back up to $4,000 in care expenses for one qualifying person and up to $8,000 for two or more people. So definitely important, to file this year, because you could be eligible for either of these three credits or all of them actually. So, definitely don't be discouraged. File your taxes as well, also to avoid any situations with the IRS. And we also have more information regarding on general frequently asked questions about our program. If you're an individual who uses an individual tax rate identification number, you could definitely read up more on that. We also have a consumer bill of rights when it comes to using a tax preparer. So this, maybe you might have a trusted tax preparer you go to every year. You have consumer rights. So definitely be aware of those rights to make sure, that your rights are not being violated. And here's just a little bit more information on what our annual tax season initiative looks like. So overall, that is it in my presentation. If there are any further questions or concerns, I could definitely address them later as well. So I just want to say thank you. That is it. Yay.
And we've shared some of the links in the chat as far as resources. So any FAQs regarding the Freelance Isn't Free Act and just the general freelance workers page, along with tax prep information.
Well, thank you. That was really helpful, especially for our audience. So many of them are artists and work part-time as freelancers, and especially the last bit about the tax prep. I think that's really essential because so much of that is like sales through art and sort of piecemeal work and things like that. So thank you again very much for joining us, and we'll post this on our website and through our YouTube channel so that our audience can view it, and hopefully they'll get back to you if they have any questions.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to put my contact information on the chat box, so feel free to put that on the website as well for them to have a way to contact me as well.
Great.
They will be included in the description on the bottom of the video that we're going to post. So if anyone is interested, just go to the bottom of the video. Yeah.
Okay. All right, all. Well, look, thank you for joining us, and thank you so much, Michelle and Ed.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.